Hello, welcome to an unexpected podcast. I'm Matt from Boston. Evan is with us as well. And also with us is Mick.
Hi.
And today we are doing a special update, unexpected podcast, because we're going to have a news update regarding Fall of the Necromancer, because we have gotten a secret release, pre-release copy of Fall of the Necromancer. It's right here. You're going to have to read it backwards, but here it is, Fall of the Necromancer. And this is brand new, copyright 2006.
Yeah, just ignore the part of it that says Lord of the Rings strategy battle game. That was a misprint. It actually is supposed to say Middle Earth.
I'm sure that's a typo, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe it was supposed to say the Hobbit, but we don't know.
But in any case, there is a Fall of the Necromancer that is coming. There's recently a Warhammer community article that was released, talked about it, that gave some hints as to what it's going to contain. For the first part of the show, we're going to talk through these hints and what we think they mean. We'll wildly speculate and discuss how this will mean the downfall of the entire hobby. After we do that, we're going to talk through a couple of listener lists and one of mine. So we have a listener list from Rodrigo Diaz, and we have a listener list from Yannick Adams Cruz. Kroon. I can't read my own handwriting. That's not your fault for having an unpronounceable name. That's my fault for writing it down incomprehensibly. But we'll see it when it pops up on the screen. And then there's a local tournament coming up that Evan and I are going to. It's a 700 point tournament here. If there's time available, we're going to go through my 700 point Isengard list and see if it's terrible and I should go back to the drawing board and come up with one of my other list ideas or not, but we'll see. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen here so we can pop this Warhammer community article up here and we can all revel in the new content. Oops. Is that are we looking at a 700 point Isengard list? I think I put the wrong.
No.
Oh no, we're not. Okay, good. I'm looking at a 700 point Isengard list, but that's because I have fumbled my two monitors. So let us take a look at Brave the Darkness of Mirkwood in the upcoming Fall of the Necromancer supplement. So this is the next book that's going to come out. We are somewhat reliably informed that this is going to be coming out in October. So let's keep our fingers crossed for that. We're going to hear about it soon. But hopefully this episode will come out to provide at least some information before we actually get the book so we can tease you a little bit and this will not be overcome by events. But this is a supplement that will replace the Fall of the Necromancer book that I showed you, or at least take the place of, and bring the kind of speculative Fall of the Necromancer book that came out in 2006 before there were things called Hobbit movies in which the Necromancer actually fell, with a book that's based on what happened in the movies. And I do have to say that the scene with the Fall of the Necromancer, where Saruman, Galadriel, and Elrond take on the Necromancer and the Nine, is one of my favorite scenes from the Hobbit movies. I think actually probably just one of my favorite scenes from all six of the movies. I don't know how other people feel about that, but I am actually really excited to see that come out. So I guess before we go on to the specifics,
no spoilers, Matt. No spoilers.
Yeah. Before we go on to the specifics, though, how do people feel about this being the next book?
Oh, I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, it was somewhat unexpected to begin with. Obviously, it seems the guys at Middle Earth have been working on the War in North, so with all the Easterlings and all that stuff. And so when this was revealed at Articon, that was a bit of this could be something really interesting. So it's really good to see more content coming from Middle Earth, especially since it shows that, like, obviously GW cares about this game and cares about the community, so that's really good. And even though there may not be new models coming out, it's just good to see that there's going to be new rules, new legendary legions, just like new things which just keep things exciting and ticking, and hopefully will lead to future good things to come as well.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I guess a pretty nice appetizer in a way to War in the North. I think maybe I'd be a little less happy about it if I didn't know that War in the North was coming and we didn't get all these profiles and such like that. Because obviously there aren't any new profiles in this book. But I mean, with War of the North around the corner, and the fact that we're going to get a lot of scenarios in this, we're going to get some legendary legions to keep match players happy. I think this is a pretty positive thing, and it's good to be back getting Middle Earth stuff.
Cool. Okay, so we've got the cover here, Fall of the Necromancer. It's, I guess, going to have 13 narrative scenarios, which are always fun. They discuss a flight to the east scenario, which seems to be a Gandalf searches Dol Guldur for the Necromancer, who has to try and run away from Gandalf because I guess he's still weak. But it's going to be one of these counter games where there's going to be several markers kind of running around the table, running away from Gandalf. Hopefully that's going to be a fun scenario. Some of those kind of non-traditional scenarios are actually really fun to play. There is a scenario, a Lake Town scenario, where you have Bard kind of sneaking around Lake Town trying to get the black arrow to the tower where the what is that thing called? The Dwarven Windlands is. It's a fun and different scenario, and it's all about kind of like moving him in a sneaky fashion so he doesn't get caught. And then, at the end of the game, if he does get caught, he needs to try and fight his way the last bits. And hopefully the scenario will be a bit like that, where you've got a sneaky necromancer sneaking around all of these nice shadowy ruins, trying to avoid Gandalf. It seems like that could be a fun time. They also talk about here, they've got a revamp of the capture of the Grey Wizard scenario. This was a scenario I think it came out in the Armies of the Hobbits book, because I know I've played this scenario. This is one where it's Gandalf and Thrain the Broken trying to run away from Azog, and then a bunch of his minions that are slowly coming on the board as reinforcements. So it's a bit of a fun time to play, and I think probably will be a good time, another good excuse to pull those Dol Guldur ruins out. Evan, I know you've played the scenario because I think I played it against you. But Mick, have you ever played the scenario before?
No, I never have. But I'm just looking at it on the website, and it looks like there's like a different reinforcements table on here, because normally you just roll one d6 and you compare and then choose where things come. But here it's like a 2d6 with various models entering from different places. D3 hunter orcs, or just one hunter orc on a warg. The necromancer himself if you roll a double six. So
yeah, and I think
cool.
that is similar to the way the original scenario was laid out in Armies of the Hobbit. I think that's how it is you'd roll dice and you would kind of get different stuff. And you really didn't want the necromancer. You didn't want the guy to roll the 12 and have the necromancer show up.
I mean, yeah, here it says, should your roll on the chart cause you to exceed the number of models you have remaining to enter the board, instead treat the result as a 12.
As a 12, yeah, and then the necromancer shows up, and I think that's they used kind of the model count that's there, and it looks like it's showing you get the necromancer, you got Azog, you have 6 hunter orcs on fell wargs and 12 hunter orcs, and then when you exhaust them, when you exhaust the 6 hunter orcs on fell warg and the 12 hunter orcs, then the necromancer shows up.
Necromancer shows up, yeah.
But
unless you have a double six before.
Yeah, I think you can. I think that may actually have happened where like the necromancer showed up on like turn 3 and it was like and it was a scary result. But anyway, that's a fun scenario. I'm curious to see what the other scenarios are going to be. And then the next one is the next thing that's going to be in there, four new legendary legions. I think we had some hints at this.
I'm just going to interrupt real quick here.
Yep.
Well, on the shared screen, I just see the title.
Yeah,
I don't
same.
see.
Hang on.
Yeah, make sure that the viewers are able to actually see the stuff here.
All right.
So I'm
there we go.
Something.
Now
we
can see it.
I'm having fun with multiple monitors here. All right. So So there was the title. This was the capture of the Grey Wizard. Now we're going to go down and we're going to talk about legendary legions. So we've got 4 legendary legions. And they give us kind of hints of what the Legendary Legion special rule is supposed to be. The first one being the all Mirkwood Ranger Legendary Legion that everyone was asking for. Surely somebody was asking for that, but apparently you can get it now. And I guess it's going to come with a special rule where you can duck and dodge behind trees to avoid incoming attacks.
Interesting.
Any thoughts on what that's all about?
Well,
I
mean, they give us
basically
nothing here.
Yep.
So I have no idea what that rule would be. I don't know if it's like if you're in the woods or something, you get like a fury save, or
boy, I really hope it's not that. I really hope it's not woods dependent, where you're like, here's my brand new Legendary Legion of Mirkwood Rangers, guys, and I just spent the last 4 months painting it, and there's no woods on any of these boards. Oh crap.
Yeah. So I see this going two ways. I either see them not getting enough of a buff or getting buffs that are way too specific, like being able to get a fury save in the woods, and them being completely useless and no one will take them despite the fact that they're a Legendary Legion. And I also see them getting way too many buffs, and then the whole problem with the 100% bows will come into the picture. I'm not saying that we're going to get another Rangers of Ithilien, because obviously Mirkwood Rangers are 14 points, which is very expensive, so you're not going to get nearly as many of them.
They don't have spears.
Maybe we'll get another Men of the West.
True. Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. I guess we'll see. We'll see what that's all about. I've always thought that there's some sort of list lurking in there somewhere, but I mean, yeah, I think you're right. I don't think we're going to have a Rangers of Ithilien problem, because these guys still cost what, 13 points a pop?
14
points a pop. Yeah. So there's just never going to be enough of them to do that. But hopefully there's something that can make them at least, border on competitive.
Yeah, but like if you think of, let's say, putting Legolas and Tauriel together, that's like 200 points. That gives you what, 27 models to take, times 14. You're looking at like another 330-ish, something like that. So you can probably take like a 30 model shoot the army at like 550, 600 points. But it just seems really plain and potentially quite boring to play with or against.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Maybe there's some way in here to make it. I mean, I guess if it's not too overpowered, it would be kind of a fun, challenging list. But I guess we'll just have to see what it's all about.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the next Legendary Legion is an evil one, and this is the Pits of Dol Guldur, which features Azog and his orcs in the fortress. And they can launch a surprise attack on their foes because they found a Palantir, or at least they found a special rule that works just like the Palantir, because they are allowed to automatically seize priority on any given turn.
Yeah, I don't really understand this one. So to me, this almost feels like one of those Sharku or Lurid special rules where you can enter the board as reinforcements by choosing where you enter, or even charge on the turn you enter. So how does seizing priority actually?
Yeah, I was thinking
that wouldn't do anything. It's really strange.
I was thinking like Goblin Mercenaries almost, with like, they deploy somewhere and they just appear and then you're fighting them. But either way, neither of those things, well, as far as we know, neither of those things will actually be in the Legion. It's instead seizing priority, which I don't think really equates to a surprise attack in any way, shape, or form. But
yeah, because someone just calls a heroic move and
and
surprise is over.
Yeah.
Yes, your surprise attack will be happening. I guess they weren't surprised. It will be happening very late in the game after everybody is out of might. Yeah. And at that point, I don't think it's going to be very surprising.
Everybody's out of might, and then Azog shouts, "Surprise!"
Well, unless they have a rule where, let's say, they can seize priority and no one can call heroic actions during that move phase.
That would be extremely strong. Actually, yeah, and I think that might actually make the Legion very powerful. But yeah, it could be a thing.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Although your point is valid that it's hard to see how this is a surprise attack if folks are, because the time you would want to use it is when you're already like face to face and you want to charge your orcs into that enemy cavalry that just charged you last turn, and that's not really a surprise, but okay, I guess we'll have to see what that's about. Then we have the Rise of the Necromancer Legendary Legion, which features Sauron in his shadowy form and the dreaded Nazgul of Dol Guldur. Having regained much of his strength at this point, the Necromancer can cast 2 magical powers per turn, and he even has 2 attacks.
That sounds pretty strong.
So, I mean, I assume this is going to be the 1,000-point list of the 9 plus the Keeper of the Dungeons, plus you have an amped up Necromancer of Dol Guldur with 2 attacks and casting 2 magical powers per turn.
This is going to be dumb. I'm calling it right now. I think in some tournaments we've seen, not necessarily in this edition, but last edition, I know some people actually have placed highly and or won tournaments.
That's right.
With this list. I think Jay Clare and James Long won 7 stones with this list at 1,000 points.
Damien O'Byrne was, I think, second or one of the quite big ones, like 2-3 years ago
well
too.
As well.
Yeah.
And now the Necromancer can cast 2 magical powers per turn, which obviously it has the downside of draining his will a lot, but he does have 25 will points, and I don't know. I think we can assume that they're going to keep the Dol Guldur bonus of him getting a free will point per turn.
Was it a free will point, or it's a free extra die that he gets?
If it's a free extra die, even better, because he's casting 2 magical powers.
I think it's a free extra die he gets.
Then that would be absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah, he's just spinning those spells off.
And I mean, 2 attacks at fight 7 that automatically kill a guy. And he's strength 7 too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
So
he used to be unarmed. He's no longer.
No, he's not. He's never been unarmed.
Yep. No. Yeah. So I think this is going to be a very strong legion.
Yeah, you can probably imagine like a machine gun of black darts. Like you just.
Well, he doesn't have black dart. He has.
Chill
Soul,
which is better. Yeah, sorry. I mean Chill Soul, which is better. So you essentially just go, okay, I'm gonna walk here. I'm gonna 1 dice Chill Soul that thing with my extra dice too. 4+ cast kills. I'm gonna do the same there, kills. The next turn I'm gonna walk again, kill 2 more. It's like.
Yeah, it is cast on a 5, but I think he can still do a whole lot with this. And this is only what we know about this Legion, that he can cast 2 magical powers in his 2 attacks. As far as we know, this might have like 3 more special rules or something like that. I think this is definitely going to be a scary list. Well, I mean, it already causes terror in his Harbinger and all that stuff, but it's definitely going to be a scary list to play against.
But it's also possible there may be some sort of a downside to Legion too, where let's say if you take it as Legion, then the moment Necromancer dies, then all of the Nazgul have to take some sort of a test or suffer a wound or something like that. So,
well, I mean, presumably they're all going to go from dying on 2+, or staying alive on 2+ to reincarnating on 3+.
On 3+, yeah.
So anyway, the army bonus here is, as it stands now, whenever the Necromancer of Dol Guldur attempts to cast a magical power by expending 1 or more will points, he automatically adds an extra free will point to the casting test.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's if that still exists in the Legendary Legion, that's going to be broken.
So in theory, he's got like the equivalent of 50 will points to cast 2 spells a turn.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting.
Yeah,
you can eventually 2 Chill Souls against heroes per turn.
Yep.
Yeah, like imagine you took let's say let's say Thranduil and Bard. You've got two big heroes and you've got them and you're ready to go. Eventually you're going to get to the point where neither Thranduil nor Bard are going to be doing anything. They're just going to be transfixed every single turn by the Necromancer.
Yeah.
And their 400 combined total points are going to be shut down by 250. And that was the whole problem beforehand with the Necromancer, was that he was 250 points and he can only shut down one hero. And so normally the hero he's shutting down would be less points than him, so he wouldn't really be that useful. But now he can quite easily shut down way more than his points are worth.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What's also interesting is the possibility to cast 2 Shroud of Shadows a turn.
Yeah.
So that would be, and I can never remember. It's the channeled version that allows you
to have fight
value, but the unchanneled version still allows you to like move through stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
which isn't a huge problem because your ring rates are going to be teleporting everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But you can just like cast it on yourself a bunch of times.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. And he can move through models. So he's sort of like a pseudo flying model. He causes terror along with that. So he's going to be almost impossible to charge. And he's also got another magical power to cast. So that would be interesting. Does he cast it on a 4?
Cast it on a 4.
Yeah. So 75% chance every turn if he one dices it.
Yep. And I mean, you can also do kind of interesting stuff where, because he's fight 7. So, I mean, you can do stuff where like, you transfix somebody in the back rank. I mean, you could, because you got 2 spells. The first spell is a transfix on somebody within 6 inches. And that guy's got to resist it because regardless of how many people are between him and the Necromancer, because the next thing the Necromancer could do is cast Shroud of Shadows on himself and then just run through the lines and charge that guy and then kill him with, fight 7. And all I need to do is wound you.
Mm-hmm. And he's got 2 attacks now.
He's got 2 attacks now. Yeah. So he's going to be, I think he's going to be quite the assassin.
Yeah.
Whereas previously people would just hide him as much as possible and just try to protect him. Now they can just send him in.
Yep. Yeah.
If I play against this Legendary Legion in a tournament, I'm going to have reasons to be scared. That's for sure.
All right. Well, and then we have the ultimate counter to the Rise of the Necromancer Legendary Legion.
The Avengers Assemble.
Yes, the Vanquishers of the Necromancer, which, as
the
we
Lords
predicted,
of one attack.
Yes, as we predicted, contains only 5 models: Saruman, Gandalf, Radagast, Galadriel, and Elrond. So presumably these guys are going to be buffed. They hint here that each member of the White Council providing aid to their allies in their own way. So I assume each one of these 5 figures, like the Breaking of the Fellowship Legendary Legion, is going to get its own special rule, and perhaps will get some additional boosts army-wide. But the big thing is Galadriel, Lady of Light. So they've souped her up for this Legendary Legion because she's obviously a model that you never see on the table now. And so she can, it looks like she's going to get 2 special abilities. One is she can cast her banishment magical power on any model, not just spirit models. So, she can banish the Keeper of the Dungeons or anybody else. So she can just basically kind of like take off 1 figure a turn if you want. And then she has her super banish, which they've actually excerpted here. So I'll go ahead and read it out for those listening at home and not able to see it on the screen. Go back to the void from whence you came, which is grammatically redundant because she could have just said, go back to the void whence you came. But anyway, once per game, if Galadriel has at least 1 will point remaining, Galadriel may choose to exert her full power instead of casting a magical power. If she does so, then she immediately casts the channeled version of the banishment magical power, which cannot be resisted. Models may use fate to prevent these wounds individually as normal. However, immediately after casting the banishment magical power in this way, place Galadriel prone and reduce her will to 0. Additionally, for the rest of the battle, she does not benefit from her Lady of Lothlorien and War Aspect special rules. Let's talk through what exactly this means. Obviously, this is something you want to wait till Galadriel's down to 1 will point, and then you fire this one off.
Well, to be more specific, I'm fairly sure this is something you want to probably wait until the end of the game to fire off, because you cannot cast any more spells after that.
So yeah, basically, this is Galadriel uses this thing, and then a model within banishment range, which is I think 6 inches or 12.
12.
12. Yeah,
yep, 12.
So a model within 12 inches suffers D3 wounds.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And then all of these wounds can be prevented by fate, but once you've used that, she loses all of her special rules.
Not quite all of her special rules. She's still carrying the light of
she is, yes.
But other than that, yeah, you're right. She's certainly not casting any more magic at that point. So, I mean, I think you're right, Evan. This is like at the end of the game, if I need to kill that banner, or more importantly, if I need to kill that leader, if the general is still around, this is what you use on it.
I mean, there are also probably going to be situations where your opponent has like a ring wraith or something like that, or anything that's like more expensive than Galadriel, and you're just like, okay, well, yeah, if he gets low enough, you go up, you just banish them. There's nothing they can do about it, and they die, and you're perfectly fine with those debuffs to Galadriel, because you've killed a model that could be more powerful than she is.
Right.
Well, I also just want to give props really quickly to Games Workshop for finally buffing an underpowered and underused model like Galadriel. Very proud of that. But I think moving on sort of to some speculation about what it says about the White Council providing aid to their allies. I don't know if either of you guys remember what the White Council special, like, was it like special battle group or something like that in War of the Ring did, where they like each had some sort of buffing ability that they would give, and it would affect everybody. I have a feeling that this might be similar. Like they provide some sort of either buff or debuff or something that has a certain range. And this might just be sort of a bubbly legendary legion. Say Elrond gives like a buff of attacks or something like that, because all the wizards have trash attacks. Saruman makes them, I don't know, auto pass courage tests because of his voice of Kuranir. That probably wouldn't be very useful.
Yeah. Who cares about that?
But I'm just throwing some spaghetti at the wall here.
Yeah, I would imagine somebody's going to give a banner effect. Because that's something you see in all like the fellowship type rules.
Yeah, I would say Gandalf would give banner effect just because people like listening to him.
Except for Saruman.
Saruman.
Gonna glower at him grumpily.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this will be fun. I assume Radagast is going to get his sleigh. So you'll have that thing scooting around in there.
But it's going to be one of those annoying sort of army lists, because like you're either going to run into scenarios where you can't lose, or you're going to run into scenarios where it's very difficult to win. And it almost like takes away the fun from either player.
Mm-hmm. This is going to be an army that you're probably going to beat every time you play against it, unless you're in very specific scenarios.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be happy about drawing it despite that fact.
I don't know. I hope, I mean, like I was saying, when we talked about this before, I was saying that I thought they did an excellent job with the Breaking of the Fellowship Legendary Legion, which is which is a lot of fun to play. It's not a world beater, but it's a really interesting challenge list. And I hope this is the same, where you really have to think about how to beat it. And I assume the solution to beating this list for most lists is not going to be throw everything you have at the White Council and try and just drag them down by sheer weight of numbers. I hope it's going to be more like, I have to actually think about the victory conditions here about and how I'll make them. So I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic about this legendary legion. And obviously it'll be fun to play this legendary legion against the Rise of the Necromancer legendary legion.
That's I'm not sure if your opponent is going to be having fun with that, but I think you definitely will.
Yep. No, I think it might. Yeah, we'll have to see how it comes. But anyway, stay tuned. The rest of the stuff that's in this book is discussion of the ruins of Dol Guldur terrain pack, which is going to be a neat modular pack, but there's not a lot we can kind of say about it at this point. But I think it's going to be fun terrain, obviously, and I think this is going to be a fun book. Looking forward to it. So, all right,
cool. Let's move on to some army lists.
All right, let's do that.
Cool. So we have a list from Yannick Adams Krum. He actually sent us a list to our Facebook channel or Facebook page, which you can like or subscribe to. So he is saying, hello, I'm a big fan of the podcast, and this is an 800-point list. So Warband 1 is Gwaihir, who is the leader of the army. Then we have Warband 2, we have Isildur with shield and the ring, 8 warriors of Numenor with shields, 1 warrior of Numenor with shield and spear, 5 warriors of Numenor with spear and bow. Then Warband 3, we have a Numenor captain with shield and heavy armor. And in Warband 4, we have Lothlorien, led by Galadriel with the mirror. Then we have 4 Galadriel warriors with bows and spears, 1 warrior with shield, spear, and a banner, 7 warriors with shield, and 2 guards of the Galadriel court. So in total, that's 32 models, 9 bows, 11 might, and 800 points. So additional notes he's saying here are Isildur with the ring and Gwaihir make a really strong hero combination, as they can face almost any hero in the game and move through enemy ranks. Galadriel supports them, providing blinding light, compelling enemy models, and restoring the fate with the mirror. She can also be used as a tank with heroic defense. Elf warriors and warriors of Numenor will fight together, taking advantage of fight 5, strength 4, courage 5, and resistance to magic. And would you consider taking a sentinel or buying the Numenor captain a horse and a lance? And what do you think this list would struggle going up against? So first of all, Gwaihir can also pick up the mirror of Galadriel and can actually carry it around and fly with it. So that's one of those neaty, cool tricks that you can do where Gwaihir might be taking wounds in combat, but then he just regains his fate points. So yeah, that's usually the combo that people tend to implement if they have the mirror. So first of all, this is 800 points and you have only 32 models. So I can see already that your warbands aren't filled up. So Galadriel has 4, 5, 12, 14 models in it. So you can still have 4 models more. And in Isildur's warband, he also has 14, so you can stick in 1 more model. So you could potentially have like 5 extra, should you wish to drop the Numenor captain. Now, I believe the reason for the captain is probably going to be heroic march, because I don't think Isildur has a march. Correct me guys if I'm wrong.
No.
Yeah.
He's clearly there for the march.
Yeah. So yeah, well, that's an interesting choice. I mean, obviously, the entire army is moving only 6, with the exception of Gwaihir. Isildur here doesn't have a horse, so like I would probably start by giving Isildur a horse. I'm not really sold on this idea of a lonely Numenor captain, even though he does give the march. I'm like, I feel like more warriors plus the horse plus general upgrades across the line might serve you better. But I really do like Guai here, obviously. We've talked about him numerous times on the podcast, and he's, I think, fan favorite for everybody. He's really strong. Galadriel is pretty strong too. Obviously, with all her spells and blinding light, she actually nullifies the issue of only 32 models. Yeah, so I think generally the warbands combine well, but I would like to see potentially more models and a horse for Isildur, and potentially like maybe one or two riders of some sorts in the Lothlorien list instead of possibly the Numenor captain. I would say the Numenor captain would have to go, in my opinion. Anyway, I'll pass it over to you guys.
All right. So I agree with a lot of what Mick said. I think Isildur needs a horse. And if you're looking at the podcast right now and going, why would Isildur want a horse? He's just going to put on his ring and fall off it. The point of the horse with Isildur is twofold. One, before you're using the ring, you want to be able to do as much damage as possible, maybe on some troops or some weaker heroes. And two, it allows Isildur to go where he needs to go in order to be able to utilize the ring.
And
for 10
three,
points,
if you run into ring wraiths, you may well not be putting on that ring and you'll want the horse.
That is true. So, well, either way, you definitely want the horse.
Actually, if you run into ring wraiths, they're gonna black dart your horse anyway, so it doesn't matter.
That's true, but at least it gives them something to do with before they actually turn their attention to transfixing Isildur.
That's right, yeah.
True. Though, does the horse get resistant to magic?
Ooh, probably. If Isildur himself gets resistant to magic, then the horse would as well.
I think, I think I looked at this and
it's some weird wording there because he doesn't exactly have resistant to magic. He gives it to himself because he is friendly to himself. I don't know if that changes anything.
All right, so we're back to
it's the model that gains a special rule.
All right,
magic special rule.
So we're back to page 17 of the rule book where the horse is part of the Isildur cavalry model.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, Glorfindel has Asphaloth gets resistant. Well, gets 2 dice to resist.
Right.
All right. So that's another reason to want the horse because it's not going to be quite as easy to black dart the horse out. Now, obviously, resistant to magic won't always work, especially against a black dart. Only 33% of the time, or 16% of the time if they roll a 6. But it's a little deterrent in there. To help prevent them from doing that.
And they have to actually roll the 5 or the 6 to begin with. So,
indeed.
So it is still a resource drain to try and get them to get rid of that horse.
Yeah.
And So,
another thing I'd like to see from this list is I believe there are 14 elves there. Yes. So, trying to fit in that extra bowman because you're not quite up to your bow limit. I know obviously you're very tight on points here, but maxing your bow limit, especially with shoot value 3+ guys, is always good. And I think that there's also a lot of things you want to do here, like you want more numbers because 32 is a little low. You want some cavalry, though not desperately, because you do have Gua here who can move very quickly and go all over the place. And in my personal opinion, you probably want more guards of the Galadriel court as well, especially because of how small your army is. You want to have fight 6 guys to be able to either deter or maybe win the combat against fight 6 and fight 5 heroes and knock them off their horses so they can't go ravaging through your lines. So in order to find those points, I think dropping the captain may be wise, though that does give you a bit of a might problem, especially because Gua here cannot make his heroic actions affect anybody. And if Isildur has the ring on, his heroic actions also won't affect anybody. So Galadriel would be the only person calling heroics. So that might be a bit of a problem there.
Well, she doesn't really have to call, like, she doesn't really have to use might for much else.
True.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, she may channel blinding light, but that's really the only thing she's going to use might for.
Well, either that and heroic defense as well.
That's right.
I've had her charge into Azog once and call heroic defense. That was funny. And the look of confusion on my opponent's face was great. When Galadriel went charging full sprint into Azog.
So I'm going to add my vote.
Idea.
Yeah, I'm going to add my vote to the ditch the Numenor captain and use his points elsewhere. And I think where I would use his points is I would spend 10 points to put Isildur on a horse. And I would spend the rest of the 50 points to max out Isildur and Galadriel's warbands. And you can probably get them up to full out warbands, which I think ends up with 36 models, which is still a tad low. But given the fact that you've got a bird and a guy with the ring, I think we'll be just fine. And your march goes away, but you've got a bird. You don't have any cavalry, but you've got this big giant bird. In bird we trust, right? I mean, especially if he's going to be flying around with carrying the mirror. So, ooh, you wounded me. Okay, here's 3 fate. Got it. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I'm back to full fate.
There are so many different ways of dealing with heroes in this list. Like hurls with Gwahir. You've got the ring with Isildur. You've got transfixes and compels with Galadriel. You've got just charging Galadriel or Gwahir into a hero and just sitting there with the mirror near them and just being completely invincible. You've got the guards of Galadrim Court, which again, I think we're probably in agreement here. You probably want a couple more of them, just in order to get a bit more fight 6 in there. And your troops and warriors, well, your warriors in general are just very strong. Strength 4, fight 5 and fight 6. There's some defense 6 in there, which is good. I think this may struggle. Sorry to cut you off there, Dad, but I think this may struggle with horde armies because you're really relying on Gwahir to do a lot of the damage there. And because unlike normal Last Alliance lists, this doesn't have Círdan, so it doesn't have Aura of Dismay. It might make things a little bit harder. But other than that, I think it's really strong.
Yeah, and I think the solution to the might problem, because, I mean, even without the Numenor captain, you've still got 9 might to do something with.
It's still very solid.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I think your solution to the might problem is just to kill everybody on the other side that has might, and this list can do that because you've got a bird that can flap over the top and tear people apart. Death from the sky, and then you've got Isildur who can put on the ring and go in and shank people from behind. And between those two, I think probably between those two and Galadriel's transfix, I think probably in 2 or 3 turns you can pretty much eliminate the might that's on the other side, and then you'll be just fine.
I would maybe just add one last thing that I would want to have, let's say, 1 cavalry model additionally, just because it's really annoying when you're in a situation where you're playing recon and you have to fly your bird off instead of just having something to run off.
Yeah, that's fair, and you could do that instead of getting 2 Galadrim warriors, you could get 1 Galadrim knight.
Yeah. Though I would, I guess, possibly argue that having more models in recon might be slightly more valuable, but that's of course down to personal taste. And once you take that captain away, it gives you more options and stuff to do. So if you want to just fully max out on models like we talked about, get some more guards of the Galadrim Court, max out your bow limit, that sort of thing, that works. If you want to throw in a couple of cavalry models, that works. But I think the consensus here is drop the captain, give Isildur a horse, and then figure out what you want to do with the rest of your points on warriors.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we do the other listener list next?
One little thing.
Yep.
He asked if we would consider taking a sentinel. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
drop the captain, I would say absolutely. If you're keeping the captain, it would be a little tougher to fit it in there because it hurts your model count a bit more. I know my father absolutely hates sentinels. They've never really worked for him. My sentinel seems to end up just winning me the game many times whenever I take it. So I
Yeah.
would always consider a sentinel.
I think you're too low on models to take a sentinel.
I,
If you're on like
I agree.
37, 39, 40, then sure, take a sentinel. But
Yep.
32, I wouldn't do it.
I mean, well, I guess I would say if you're going to do a Sentinel, don't take a Galadriel Knight. If you're going to take the Galadriel, yeah. So the supposition here is that you're dropping the Numenor captain. With those points, you could probably choose to take either a Sentinel or a Galadriel Knight. I would probably go with the Galadriel Knight. I get much more mileage out of mounted guys than I do out of the Sentinel. That seems to be just an exercise in seeing which model can pass a courage test this turn.
Yeah, this is really cool list for 750 points because all you have to do is drop a captain.
Yep.
And take one more guy.
So, all right.
All right, cool. Let's move to the next one.
All right. Do we see
a
list?
There it is.
All right.
It's there.
There we go.
All right. Well, why don't I read this one since it's on my computer? All right. So
I'm not going to be reading stuff off your computer then.
Right. So Rodrigo has a Yellow Alliance 800 point list. And this is going to be a variation on a theme we have seen before and we'll no doubt see again. Warband 1 is Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, with horse, shield, and the banner for 215 points. He's got 4 warriors of Minas Tirith with shield, 1 warrior of Minas Tirith who forgot to bring anything but his sword, 4 rangers with spear, 1 guard of the Fountain Court with shield, 2 knights of Minas Tirith with shield. And then Warband 2, we have Madril, another frequent appearance in Minas Tirith lists. He has 4 warriors of Minas Tirith with shield, 1 warrior of Minas Tirith. Again, this is the guy that forgot to bring anything extra. 4 rangers with spear, 1 guard of the Fountain Court with shield. And then Warband 3 is the Gondor Avenger boat thrower. Warband 4 is Gwaihir, and Warband 5 is Galadriel, Lady of Light. So it comes out at 29 figures, 16 might, 1 on the siege veteran, 9 bows, 3 mounted troops, and 1 flying bird. And bird we trust. So let's see. And he says on the bottom, he recognizes that this is a low figure threshold, but he's got 2 heavy hitters in Boromir and Gwaihir, supported by Galadriel. And then he's got shooting from his rangers, plus the Avenger bolt thrower, a couple guys with bodyguard, and Gwaihir is the leader. And then he discusses a potential variant of this list, which we can talk about, I guess, once we talk through this list. So thoughts on this list?
Well, I assume a lot of our listeners have already noticed some similarities, at least in sort of list construction idea with our last list, which is we have the bird, as always. We have some form of Galadriel. This one is Lady of Light. The last one was the other Galadriel to do the whole bird bath combo.
No bird bath here.
No bird bath here.
This will be an unwashed bird.
Indeed, truly disgusting. But and we've got a powerful hero, and we've got a marcher as well in there as well, and Madril. Last time it was the Numenor captain. Now it's Madril, and then we've got some way to get fight 5, defense 6 in there. So a couple of things. Well, one thing I noticed right away looking at this list is the warriors of Minas Tirith that just left all of their equipment behind. And I would recommend finding a way to give those guys shields because defense 6 is extremely valuable. So is shielding. So all you need to do is find 2 points, give them shields.
I think you could probably take one of those guard of the fountain court with shields and make it into a citadel guard with shield, and I think that solves the problem.
Well, citadel guard just with the spear.
No, I'm sorry, not with a shield, with a spear. Yes.
Yeah. Still gives you the 2 bodyguard. Sort of fixes your shield to spear ratio a bit there. And allows you to get shields on those guys. As for the Avenger Bolt Thrower, I'm not overly convinced that it's the right choice to take, though I haven't ever used it. So I'm not exactly an authority on it. But to me, the math doesn't exactly seem that great on it. It's 50 points, and it's here, and it's the warriors in it probably aren't going to be doing much in combat. And on average, you're hitting 3 to 4 times. Well, you're getting 3 to 4 shots, which means on average you're hitting twice, and then you're killing maybe 1 model per turn. So on average, you're killing 3, maybe 4 models a game, unless you can get it into such a great position where you're constantly firing every turn. And if your opponent has blinding light, that causes even more problems. I don't know what your meta is. Your meta is, Rodrigo, but if there's a lot of blinding light in it, then I would definitely recommend just leaving the Avenger Bolt Thrower at home. So personally, if I were to take this list, I wouldn't take the Bolt Thrower, but it's not really that much of an investment, so I don't think you're going to get hurt too much from taking it.
So I actually very recently took a list that looked a lot like this. It was a 700-point list. It had no bird. In place of Madril, it had Irolas, and then it had more guys to kind of fluff out the warbands, but it did have the Avenger Bolt Thrower. And I mean, I will say the Avenger Bolt Thrower did good service in this list because it is, with those D6 shots at strength 6, it is a level of scary well and above, 4 or 5, 50 points worth of Rangers of Minas Tirith. People suddenly get really scared of that Avenger Bolt Thrower. I was lucky enough in that game to not be facing blinding light and have a nice elevated position in which I could start my Avenger Bolt Thrower. So it had a pretty good field of fire from the start. But I mean, it essentially won me the game by basically shooting the guys off of an objective, the enemy guys off of an objective on the last turn of the game. And it did, despite rolling a couple of 1s on number of shots, did a pretty significant amount of damage. I mean, with that said, I'm not sure that's always going to be your level of success. I mean, the thing about the Avenger Bolt Thrower is it's a good way to kind of get people to not go into its field of fire and go a different way. That's kind of the biggest. That's the biggest thing it brings to the table for you is your ability to kind of force people down different ways and maybe force people into your bird or into combat with you. Its ability to influence the battle decreases once the lines clash because you can't shoot into combat anymore. I mean, even if you do get it someplace where it can get decent lines of fire, it's tough to get into combat. One of the reasons I took it in my version of the list is I had already filled up all the warband slots and I didn't have enough points to get another leader and a useful number of guys. And it's like, well, I can spend 50 points on this Avenger bolt thrower, and I also get 3 guys. So, that allowed me to kind of add some more bodies to the list. You really don't have that problem here. You've got open slots in both Madril's Warband and Boromir's Warband. I think in this situation, I would be tempted just to take those 50 points and get 5 more guys and throw them into the Warbands. But having said that, as I started this off, the Avenger bolt thrower, I don't think it is a dumb idea. But you just need to go into it recognizing that there are going to be some circumstances where you're not going to get the 50 points out of it. Whereas, if you throw it into more guys, you're going to get, 5 or 6 more guys. And you'll always get a benefit out of 5 or 6 more guys in this list. And I think given that this is a 29 model list at 800 points, I think I'd be tempted to take the 5 more guys. I mean, it's only a net increase in 2 guys to you, but still it's more guys that actually can fight in the battle line.
Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna add something to the Avenger bolt thrower. Since it's a sort of a 1-1 take it versus not take it, I'd be leaning towards not taking it as well. I've played with and against them, and yeah, it's a very valid argument that Matt puts here in that people don't want to walk into it and people want to avoid it and walk somewhere else. But when people actually think about it, it's like kind of might kill one model a turn on average, which is like if you had 5 or 6 rangers, you're probably gonna kill one model a turn too. So I think mathematically it just doesn't really add up to much. Yeah, there will be situations like it's one of those super high variance situations where you might have a game where like it happens to be in a perfect position and you're getting 6 shots, 5 shots, 6 shots again, and you're actually killing like 100 points of models. But I feel like most of the time it's kind of like it might kill like 2 or 3 and that's about it. And if your opponent doesn't really care about it that much, then they will just ignore it and just walk wherever they want to walk anyway. So I would say I would just lean against taking Avenger. Yeah, and especially in this list, again, as Matt mentions, like I would rather just have more models because you can have 3 more in Boromir's Warband and 2 more in Madril's. But other than that, I think it's generally pretty solid. Actually, one thing I would compare between this list and the previous is that Gwai here is the leader, and he was the leader in the other list, and that's something that is here. Obviously, it's unavoidable because you don't have another hero of legend. So that's actually a bit sad that he has to be the leader and go somewhere behind enemy lines and actually potentially risk dying. So I guess I just wanted to make a point to the other list if the listener if the person who sent us the list is still listening, in that there was a possibility of
actually
having
the person who sent us this list got bored and stopped listening about 5 minutes ago.
Probably yeah. But like there was a possibility of using Galadriel as his leader. So just a thought there. Anyway, so back to this list. Yeah, obviously Boromir is super solid and his line is super solid. I'd be tempted to like maybe if you were to drop Avenger and take some other models, then maybe try to get a few more Guards of the Fountain Court somehow, upgrading some Warriors of Minas Tirith just to have a more reliable fight 5 defense 7 line. Perhaps you don't need 2 Knights of Minas Tirith. Perhaps you only need 1 because between Boromir, 1 Knight, March, and the Bird, that should be enough in terms of fast movement. So yeah, there's just like a few cosmetic changes, I guess, but nothing major other than not taking the Avenger. But I like it otherwise.
All right. Well, enjoy playing in Argentina, and hope to see you at an international tournament sometime.
Yeah, let us know like what the community is like in Argentina. Like it would be cool if maybe you posted a comment under this video and just like introduce what Argentina is like for SVG and like Do you have many tournaments? Do you have many players? What sort of stuff people play generally? What are the points levels? It would be cool to find out because it's not a country where we very often hear of people playing SPG, and so it's cool to see that there are people out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to it.
Alrighty. So, so our last topic of the day is my list, and this is so we have a local tournament that Alex Dubois is running here. It's a 700 point tournament. It's mostly going to be local players, so I'm trying not to go into this with a hyper competitive list. I wanted a list that I was going to have fun with, and we do have some sense of the scenarios. We basically there's three games, and we have a choice of two scenarios for each game. The first one is either To the Death or Lords of Battle. The second one is either Hold Ground or Seize the Camp, or I'm sorry, Storm the Camp. The third one is either Assassination or Fog of War. So my thought process here,
Here comes a chariot.
Yeah, well, no, actually. So we did the episode fairly recently on Isengard Heroes, and I heard myself saying in that I've never seen Saruman in a tournament in the new edition. So I said, all right, what if I took Saruman in the new edition? So let's see. I'm going to put up this screen here. All right. So this is the list, and it is a mighty 2 warband list. Well, 2 with an asterisk. So we have in the list Saruman, and he will be riding his horsey, and he has in his warband 2 Crebain, 5 Uruk-hai warrior with crossbow, 5 Uruk-hai warrior with shields, and 5 Uruk-hai warriors with pike. So he's got his group of 2 Crebain who can flap out and do things, and he's got his 15 Uruk-hai warriors, and then he can run around. Saruman himself can run around in the background and cast spells. Warband 2, we have Lurtz, who comes with his free shield, and in his warband he has an Uruk-hai drummer to save me some points of might to march, because points of might are going to be a premium in this list. And with him are 6 Uruk-hai warriors with pike, 1 Uruk-hai warrior with pike and a banner, 7 Uruk-hai warriors with shield. And then rounding the list out is, of course, Grima Wormtongue, who is going to sneak around and do sneaky things. So that is the list. It comes out to 35 models, which is, I think, about average for a 700 point list. It's only got 6 might. It only really has 1 hitter in Lurtz, but it does have a lot of really tough Uruk-hai, a bunch of pikes, and quite the wizard in Saruman. So, thoughts on this?
So I like a lot of things about this list. I like the Crebain. They're always great. The drummer is a super interesting choice there. It allows you to close in on the opponent super quickly, get to objectives and stuff like that, though there aren't too many objective scenarios in this particular
tournament. But there's
only
To the Death.
Storm the Camp. And
he's really there for Storm the Camp and To the Death to get me, because I've only got 5 crossbows, so I'm not going to win a shooting war with anybody.
That is true.
Yeah,
I need to get across the board in both of those scenarios.
Grima is super interesting. There's obviously a super scummy thing you can do in Fog of War, where you choose him as the hero you want to protect.
Yeah, exactly.
And then make it so that you have to kill Saruman in order to kill him. So that would be fun.
He's also a fun guy to run around and sneak onto the objective.
Obviously, your nightmare scenario would be playing against a ring wraith in Assassination and just having him get black darted off the table turn 1 and losing 7 points that way.
Obviously
that's a trade-off you're gonna have to make there. Honestly, the only problem I really see in this list is that you only have one hitter, I say in quotation marks, because Lurtz is all right. But he's fight 5. He's not mounted, and he has some serious problems trying to deal with harder hitting heroes. And he's not going to churn through troops as fast as you might want him to. So that may cause some problems. Any army that's able to effectively beat your Urukai will probably become a problem, just because you don't have anything else that really hits anything other than your Urukai, because Lurtz can be dealt with not not super easily, because obviously you have Saruman that can sort of help him out, but he's not the best. And if I were to play against your list, I don't know if I'd be super worried playing against it, because really the only thing that you're concerned about is that whole Saruman and Grima combination, which is a threat, but it's not something you can't deal with.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that like Isengard suffers from this general thing that like you see it on the other side of the table, and generally there isn't very much to be scared of in a lot of situations. But here, obviously, yeah, Saruman's strong. Lurtz, yeah, he can be quite good. He can also just flop and die. I really like the Tukri Bane, although I have a feeling that like your lack of might here is a bit of an issue. So you said you want your Urkai drummer to not have to call heroic marches every time, but I'm thinking since you have pretty healthy numbers at 35, I wonder what you would say to a possibly swapping a drummer, one Creebane, and one warrior for an Ugluk. This way, you get 3 additional might points. You lose 2 models. You get 3 extra might points. You have more marches in case you need them. The drummer essentially, in certain scenarios, can just die very quickly. If you do get Fog of War, it's just another one of those targets that can just be a problem for you, whilst Ugluk is much stronger to survive. And yeah, generally, I think if you had like another Strength 5 model with Fight 5, it might just be helpful against a bunch of things.
Yeah, I mean, I the original version of this list had Saruman, Lurtz, and Ugluk, and the model count was not near where I wanted it to be. To get the model count where I wanted it to be, I ended up with no Creebane. And you know, that's why I decided to say, well, what if I just went with Lurtz? Because I think what I was trying to do is I was trying to do something with like Saruman, Ugluk, and either a captain or I was trying something that like pulled in one of the Dunlending heroes, and I just didn't get the numbers that I wanted. And that's why I was like, yeah, because I guess the where I ended up coming out was this is a list where like Lurch just hides in the back, and he hides behind a wall of Urukai, and then you kind of slot him in wherever the heavy hitter isn't going, and then you just use Saruman to deal with the heavy hitter with magic, either with transfixes, compels, or sorceress blasts. And then Lurch just goes in and kills guys. And I mean, he's actually pretty good with strength 5, 3 attacks, and then especially if you can get 2 pikes behind him. take. He can pretty reliably take down 2 figures a turn. And if he's sitting in the back, I can let the other guy move first as long as I'm in a position where Saruman's not going to get charged and Lurtz isn't going to get charged. I can afford to lose heroics, let him call a heroics, especially if I can manage to keep Grima Wormtongue around to burn out some might. So that was the theory behind it. It may or may not work. I don't know. But the thought was to go in with Saruman. The other thought was that that Boromir, Galadriel, Gondor Avenger, Bolt Thrower version of the list, that was another 700-point list I was toying around with. I also have been toying around with a War in the North list that has the new Erebor Reclaimed hero. Basically, what you can end up getting is Thorin the Third and Bard the Second, and then a captain, like an Iron Hills captain, in a 700-point list. And that's kind of an interesting list, but it doesn't really have any tricks and stuff. And I haven't really played a list that has tricks and stuff in a while. So I'm kind of leaning toward the Saruman list.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. Like Saruman's always been cool anyway. But yeah, I just think in this list everything is solid except for the drummer for me. So if I was playing this list, I just would do something else other than the drummer.
Yep.
But other than that, I think it's pretty solid.
So all right, well, we'll see. Maybe I'll keep the drummer, maybe I'll ditch the drummer. Maybe I'll do something else entirely, but I appreciate your feedback.
So cool. Well, good luck.
All right.
Let us know how it goes.
All right, we'll do that. So I guess this brings us to the end of another episode of An Unexpected Podcast. And everybody have fun out there, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right.
Bye, everybody.